hacer es un ritual.
Happy holidays! I've got a gift for you. Buy 4 tarot readings or coaching session gift codes in any combination, and you'll receive 2 additional gift codes too. So use all 6 codes for yourself or share them with friends and family as holiday gifts, stocking stuffers, or maybe even birthday presents. These don't expire, so you can feel free to use them and share them throughout the year. Merry Christmas, and thank you so much for being my friends. Hi there, Aries. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 21st. Thank you so much for wishing me a happy holiday. I wish you the same, a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year soon to you and your family. On Monday, we've got the Emperor card, and this is a card that indicates a sense of authority or someone who wants to be in a position of authority and in a good way. This isn't a difficult card on its own, and it could be inspiring you to feel more powerful in your own right, and maybe you really are feeling more authoritative. Maybe you have felt that you have been able to accomplish more lately. It's finally occurring to you, Aries, that things are not the way they were even earlier this year. I can guarantee you that you're able to find many, many ways where you are in a far different place now than you were this year at all, and especially about mid-year, June, July, when you thought it wasn't going to go your way, and then suddenly it was like a cascade of things going your way. That was all your hard work. Nobody did that for you. You may have had a little bit of divine assistance, but I'm sure that you rolled up your sleeves and put in all of the effort that you knew you needed just out of sheer hope and bravery in a lot of cases. On Monday, we've got Mercury in Capricorn sextiling Chiron in Pisces. This is giving us the idea that finally the way that you're communicating about what you want to accomplish at work or in your career and even just your public life, if you're retired or working for a nonprofit, where of course the energy of working or career would be about the same, you are coming across now as what you wanted to be heard like. So I can guarantee that wasn't your fault either. I think at times we're just ourselves and we worry later if we're not being understood or if we're coming across wrong, quote unquote, and that's not really what the case is. It's just everybody is going through their own personal situation. So if you didn't feel that you were being taken seriously, especially for those of you that are younger adults, it's probably true, but it wasn't something that you were or weren't doing. So in this case, I can tell you it's them, not you. So also we've got the sun entering Capricorn here on Monday, and we have the beginning now of the winter solstice. So it's time for winter, if you haven't noticed in your part of the world, unless you're living somewhere like Southern California or maybe living in the Southern Hemisphere. Of course, it wouldn't look the same way to you. So on Tuesday, we also have the Knight of Wands, indicating just like your first house, solar astrology being Aries, that it's time to move ahead, forge ahead, go forward with your new projects. Obviously, with the Mercury retrograde pre-shadow in effect now, you don't really want to have to start on anything new. If you do have things in place that have already been moving forward or that you've already been working on. And I don't mean like you've been saving up your money to buy a house and you're thinking, oh, well, Mercury retrograde wouldn't apply to me because I was thinking about buying a house 20 years ago. No, not really. Mercury would rule contracts and negotiations and everything. So you'd really want to have a nice, strong Mercury when you're going through these things, or have some other aspects in your transiting astrology that would support that as well. Mars in Libra will semi-sextile Jupiter in Virgo, so it could actually help smooth out some of those more difficult interactions you've been having with someone who's probably primary to you in your life. Could have been a relationship in your solar seventh house, would be Libra, and it could have been just a business partnership or somebody that you partner with daily, whether it's your roommate, a live-in relative, that you may not have been aware of how aggressively you were coming across, and now that will get smoothed over. Well, it will help give you the drive to want to smooth these things out, especially if it's between you and your child and someone else who you love very much and is very important to you. We want to make sure that we take advantage of that Jupiter and Virgo helping to heal this kind of energy. So it could be that you're working on your body, or that you're coming out of a period of having been a little bit under the weather, or that your daily interactions with this person were just difficult for some reason where you couldn't see really eye to eye. And I'm sure that the more you try to help improve your communication skills, to help really see things from the other person's point of view, as indicated by the North Node here in Virgo, you'll see that things will actually work in your favor. Any relationship, whether a sibling relationship, a parent-child relationship, a work relationship, a marriage, all of this requires a kind of give and take. Sometimes we give a little more and we may concede a little more, and others may have to give a little more themselves, and then we'll concede to accepting that. So not everything has to be like a power brokered business relationship, but it is something to remember that sometimes the effort is best used not by arguing, losing temper, or getting a little irritable, but to take that same energy and channel it into creating the win-win situations. And then, of course, as it relates to your health, just make sure that you don't use this energy. I don't think by now you will anymore. Last month it probably would have been more likely, but you'll be using this energy more to improve your health. Change your mindset. Think about what you're eating every day, drinking every day. Maybe you're one of these people that really needs to wean off of the fast food and save that for a treat once a month or something, and take your lunches to work so that you're not tempted to eat a freaking large fry and suck down a huge Coke. And, maybe to you health standards have been, well, I drink Diet Coke, but that still isn't water, so it's fluid, but it's not counting for you the same way that water would. On Wednesday, we've got the Ace of Cups, and this is a card that indicates we're going to be feeling a sense of spiritual renewal. You could be feeling better. You could have one of these aha moments where you realize I needed more water, just like Rita said. And, maybe once a week, you'll make sure that you buy a gallon of distilled water and drink it during the week. Here and there, you can make these changes that are seemingly subtle, but they go a really long way. And, the moon in Gemini here, coming off of the moon in Gemini, would maybe have you thinking about the way that different foods and different ideas about how you're taking care of your physical health every day, which that's the most important thing to do, is to be good to yourself, love yourself, be easy on yourself, but also be good to yourself in a nutritional sense so that you can be here a lot longer than you might otherwise, right? Good time for people to stop smoking. And so this is where we really have a good sense of renewal, and the relationships are working a little more smoothly. So just make sure to remember to give yourself the gift of a hug and a pat on your own back and tell yourself you're doing really good. And that, just because you overeat once during the holidays doesn't mean you have to overeat every single meal, like saying, F it, I've already blown it yesterday and I had half a box of C's candy, so I might as well just eat that whole roast pork, or whatever it is that people do when they go overboard sometimes, right? So here on Christmas Eve, right, 21, 22, 23, 24, on Thursday, we've got the Eight of Swords in reverse. So I'm sure that looks a little weird, a little jarring at first, but it really isn't. This is a card that indicates that it's your thinking now, that you're probably able to go right through those blocks that otherwise, leave you thinking, well, this is a conundrum. I don't know how to synchronize my relationship with my job, with my school, with my children, with my dog. And then you start to realize that these stressors that you've been going through have been to some degree within your control, even if it's by not having perhaps distracted yourself by doing a chore or taking a power walk or doing something to get you out of the moment of the stress. And you realize, hey, this is totally up to me. Christmas Eve, we also have Venus and Scorpio sextiling Jupiter and Virgo. So Venus and Scorpio are solar eighth house of partnerships and intimacy, the results of those partnerships, your joint resources, the money that is left to you perhaps in legacy or 401ks. Maybe you've had to work with some of that energy and now things are much better for you. Maybe you didn't stress out this Christmas because you didn't spend money that you didn't have, or that since you didn't have access to it, you weren't going to create a situation where you'd have to use an emergency withdrawal of that 401k, and those things can be nightmares. So this Venus and Scorpio sextiling your Jupiter and Virgo, I think really is where you saw that stressing out about finances, resources, gifts we can't afford to give everybody. We would love to give everybody everything that we can come up with, but that's not the reason for the season, in my humble opinion. But it also isn't the thing that we're supposed to be doing. At that point, it becomes kind of a credit card junk fest where we're just buying crap just to be able to put a bow on it and throw it at somebody because we don't want to make them feel like they're forgotten. I'm telling you, most of the time, it just requires a phone call or a card or a kind word to say, I love you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever it is that you say. I'm a Jesus type. We bake birthday cakes for Christmas, because it's to us representative of something a little different. And I know a lot of people share those points of view with me, and we don't really ask too many questions. We just know that the spirit of love and kindness trumps everything, that without choosing religions or making some people right and calling out others for being wrong, that whatever it is that has created these divisions and these lines and boundaries and borders and people who say I'm right, you're wrong, that we can dissipate all of that by just saying, I don't care who you are, I just love you. And when we love each other, there's no greater gift anyway. So I think this is where you really think through this. The moon will be void, of course, by the way. I believe that's 9:26 p.m. on the 24th Pacific time. So 9:26 Pacific time, do the math there. And, it's not the best time to go buying a bunch of stuff that is last minute, because you'll probably end up making some mistakes. When the moon is void, of course, we don't make very good choices. We almost have to think harder because thinking smarter isn't happening. So don't set yourself up for any more and extra stressors, right? Venus is stationary in Aries, and so we do feel a sense of anticipation, which is so appropriate for Christmas most places around the world anyway. And so this is where we're feeling like a sense of anticipation of something really fun is coming, and I'm sure it is. This will actually be a really good Christmas, you guys. It's not going to be a difficult one. It will have a lot of emotions tied to it, but I think that overall they are part and parcel of happy memory making kind of Christmas. On Friday, we've got the King of Cups in reverse, and this is appropriate because we have a full moon in Cancer, and this is a full moon that will come about or bring with it the spirit of happy surprises and wonderful revelations. The King of Cups in reverse may be a little over emotional, but hey, how many people don't grab a glass of wine and start singing to Old Lang Syne and getting a little bit emotional? But this isn't too difficult. It isn't to say that people who are sensitive to these lunations won't feel it. Uranus going direct at about 7:52 p.m. In Cancer, in Aries, will help us actually feel like it's Christmas, whether we have a sock, a stocking, or nothing. This is really a good feeling for Christmas. And Mercury will also semi-square Neptune in Pisces. So I would just kind of keep those discussions that are heavy off the table. We could say, well, hey, remember that time when dad was such an ass and he busted up your toy on Christmas because he lost? That might not be the kind of conversation to bring up, because you may think of it like, wow, wasn't he crazy? So glad it's not this way now. And we could actually hurt somebody's feelings. So just be careful with that. Mercury will also trine Jupiter and Virgo. So again, we can really communicate in different ways that could bring healing. So before you say something or share one of the stories like I usually do, right? Saying, oh my God, this person in my family crazy. This one over there, duck, duck, goose. And, might as well have been nuts or drunk. And, so choose the different stories that would be healing. Pretend that you're a politician and you have to kind of pick and choose based on the demographics, so the people in the house that you're at might be your constituents, and think, would this be offensive to my sister-in-law if I brought up how my dad said her ass was the size of a couch? Just be careful with what you say. Also on Christmas Day, we've got the Sun parallel Mercury, which will again make the communications very effective and exciting. So choose your stories for the dinner table wisely. Uranus energy will also make this part of what is the memorable time. So you're probably going to be the group of people that come away with some of the best Christmas stories that are fun and memorable at the same time. Just remember about, Aunt Bertha. We probably don't want to talk about the fact that she doesn't shave anymore because she stopped 30 years ago, right? Saturday, we've got the King of Wands in reverse, and this is an energy that might be a little bit unstable. I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. The King of Wands has a tendency, again, to just kind of say things too quickly without thinking. He forgot his proverbs, right? So this could be a fire sign, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, or somebody who just kind of acts that way. And if I didn't mention it, the King of Cups usually is a water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, or is or isn't acting the right way, if you want to put it that way. King of Wands has a temperature that's hot, so he tends to say things just right off the cuff. So that's good, because that way you can plan to see people on Christmas Day, maybe reserve Christmas the day after Christmas at home, with your own family, so that you don't bump into irritable Uncle Bob, who always has to talk about his hemorrhoids at the dinner table. Venus and Scorpio here will sextile the North Node in Virgo. So again, this helps us have the opportunity to say all the right things. So it's going to be pretty obvious what the wrong and right things are. And if somebody else says something that you're like, whoa, he just talked about the fact that, remember when she had an accident in the kitchen last year, little Aunt Mildred. And so then you're able to quickly say, oh, that's ridiculous. And then talk about the tires on your vehicle and the day that you were so lucky that you had a can of fix a flat. So this will actually help you create those bridges over some of the unfortunate things that people say. Mars and Libra will semi-square Saturn and Sagittarius, your solar what? Your solar ninth house. So here we have the ability again to maybe say things a little bit impulsively that, maybe you were fine and then you come home and your wife says, I can't believe you said that about so-and-so and she was nursing. And this stuff reminds me of my ex-in-laws. I just couldn't believe they would seem so appropriate on the surface. And then if you just sit down at dinner with them, they're talking about somebody's boobs, or it was almost like the most horrific experiences of what could have been Norman Rockwell pictures. And they all turned out to be something out of like, an unfortunate series of events, like those movies where just stupid things would happen because of the conversations. Venus and Scorpio will semi-sextile Mars and Libra. Again, just make sure that you use a touch of love, even if you notice you've said something just a little bit too much, or you've said something slightly inappropriate, or maybe even considered offensive in today's new and improved political correctedness, so maybe there's some things that we don't always know how to handle. Like if somebody brings up a conversation about Caitlyn Jenner, transgender type, is she, isn't she yet? What is that? I'd be the type of person to blow up by saying a freak. That's what that is. And then somebody would say, Mom, that's not appropriate. I'd be like, you don't understand. He was on the box of my Wheaties and now I don't get this whole thing. So the moon in Cancer will be void of course at about 7:36 p.m. So again, if you can hit some sales, I would try to avoid the day after Christmas. I don't really like to go shopping around holidays anyway, and that's a good excuse for you to say to your wife, hey, look, we can't go shopping. Moon is void, of course, Rita said, and then she'll hate me immediately. On Sunday, we've got the Two of Swords upright, which indicates here that you may not know really how to proceed with some of the filing of these happy memories. Maybe you're like, boy, I don't know if that was just weird. Do I let it go? Do I really want to know whether or not my old aunt is she hairy, like somebody from a weird country? Like, what is that? Maybe you want to just pretend you never heard it. Mercury in Capricorn will trine the North Node in Virgo. So suffice it to say that it would be a good idea to just like let it be water under the bridge and not think about it every day before, you could blow chunks at breakfast thinking about some of the things you might hear. The Sun in Capricorn will quintile Chiron in Pisces. And so we have the energy of, I would say, the ability to help smooth things over again and maybe put them into perspective. It's not an often translated aspect. I think it's worth noting since we've got so much healing energy. Mercury in Capricorn, semi-sextile Saturn in Sagittarius. So again, there's a lot of discussions that could be very healing and downright interesting, and then there could be somebody who's prone to taking offense. So I would just kind of, anything that's slightly controversial, who really, maybe you have a relative who's married to a Muslim, and then you say something like, what, you chuck the chicken leg out to the east every morning, and then we're like, oh God, no, just because we don't want to hear it. And it could likewise be somebody who's very foreign to you, talks about their feeling right in their way, and then all of a sudden, that Mars and Libra makes you say, you know what, I don't care if that's your brother-in-law because, dude, he's talking about religion again. And we're all like, oh God, so this might be where you have to just sort through these ideas and maybe let them go and say, I really don't care what other people are doing as long as they're polite to me and I'm polite to them. Who cares which direction they throw a chicken leg in? So the Moon in Leo will be in place at about 2:31 a.m. Pacific. So you could probably consider that this wouldn't be the weekend to necessarily go shopping for anything, because you might not even be able to make up your mind, on some of these after Christmas sales. I tell people to wait until like late January, February, when nobody's buying anything. The only thing really people will be buying in February is going to be along the lines of Valentine's Day gifts and things for women usually. So I would wait at least until February before making up my mind, especially if it's a purchase. If you're buying a giant monitor for your little computer and you've always wanted one of these big behemoths and you're like new or refurbished, I would wait until about mid-February for anything difficult to return, like electronics that if you go past 10 or 15 days, they start charging restocking fees. And so you could probably make better deals if you do your shopping and your considerations in January, your shopping considerations, I should say. And so price things out and see what it looks like at best. The best time would be to wait until about the middle of February if it's going to be a very expensive purchase. Like I've told my son, I think we're at the point where he just needs to buy a new vehicle, and we need to make good choices about new, delicately pre-owned, or whatever. And I've had to really just be grateful that he listens, because I really don't want him to do it until about mid-February, because he's already bought a house. And what's the next biggest thing? It would probably be a vehicle. So with that in mind, you guys, I think it's going to be a great Christmas week. I think we're going to head into a wonderful celestial energy for the New Year's Eve preparations. And with that said, I'll be talking to you soon.